I'm particularly happy that we get to have the presentation that Michael's going to share with us entitled DAM for Medical Device Marketing, from Vision to Implementation and Wide Rollout. The biomedical device and medical device fields have long been innovators in digital asset management. And when we were putting the program together for what we hoped who we hoped we would be hearing from today, it was quite important to us that we had the opportunity to continue to understand how this field has evolved and brought more and more value and meaning to DAM in general, but within a complex sector that has quite advanced devices, a lot of interesting issues around how these devices are tested and go to market, what can be stated about them. And Michael's put together a lovely presentation for us. Michael, I'd like to turn it over to you. I'll keep an eye on questions. Thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, thank you, David. First of all, I'm delighted to be here. I've been attending Henry Stewart events for many years now, and this is my first opportunity to speak. I'm going to be talking to you today about the medical device marketing for Align Technology and how I've used a simple vision statement to guide our implementation to promote buy-in and support change management. Now, I've been an asset manager now for 10 years, an asset manager in name, but I've been working with large collections since 1998. I went to school for photography at Ithaca College in upstate New York. And I started working with Cornell University on one of the first large-scale digitization projects in the United States. So I've been working with large collections, handling the large volumes of files, storing, retrieving, and tagging for quite a long time now. And I've spent a lot of time in the Northeast, so I'm very happy now to be at Align Technology in North Carolina, where I can say for the first time in my memory, I've gone through an entire winter with no snow, so I couldn't be happier. So let me get this next slide going. Okay, you probably don't really know Align Technology, but you've probably heard of Invisalign clear aligners. Many of you probably have used them or know somebody who has. We have ads during the Super Bowl, and doctors who use Invisalign have helped over 15 million people achieve the results, the smiles that they deserve. So we're a global corporation. We don't just make Invisalign clear aligners. We're a technology company. And we stay successful through continuous innovation in both hardware and software. Now, I don't know anything about dentistry or orthodontics, but to me, when I see the work that our teams produce, it looks like Star Trek to me. So that's the level of innovation that we're at least to my eyes. Constant innovation is a core principle of our company. And since we're constantly innovating, you can imagine how all of our marketing collateral has to stay up to date, has to stay current. If you think about all of the silhouettes of monitors that you have and all of the screenshots on all of the monitors that have to be updated as all of the software gets produced. Another core principle of our company is accountability. So as I'm sure you can imagine, a medical device company, we have to comply with safety standards. We have to comply with legal restraints, regulatory constraints, and we have to do this on a global scale in different languages, in different regions that may have different requirements. So I'm working with the Americas marketing team, the regional team. I'm not handling sensitive patient information, but what I am trying to do is make sure that all of our marketing materials comply with all of the constraints that we have around it, and to get the materials produced in an efficient manner so that we can get the information to the doctors in a timely manner. So, and it's a typical story too. We were, I started a year and a half ago. It was a small team, and it experienced dramatic growth. So I joined as the team was growing. And as I'm sure many of the people here have had the similar experience, you think you can handle it manually through email, through conversations, but as you try to scale, of course, this becomes unsustainable. So fortunately for me, our design team in the US had identified that they had a problem, and they purchased a DAM solution, right? But didn't necessarily know the scope of the problem or know how to define what they needed to do. So the first thing I did was I spoke with the team and asked them what they thought DAM would do for them. And one of my colleagues said having a DAM would mean never being asked where that file is again. And that fits in line with how I usually define DAM to the non-initiated. For me, digital asset management is a practice of making sure that the right people have the right access to the right files when they need them. It's a simple little statement, but it carries a lot of weight, right? So the right people in this instance starts with the designers having access to the right files, the creative assets, and the source files. The content owners and reviewers have access to unapproved marketing material drafts. And then the marketing teams at large have access to approved collateral to share with the sales team. And ultimately, and most importantly, get this information to the doctors and to patients, making sure that the information is up to date, accurate, vetted, and approved. And of course, on top of all of this, there is a layer of governance. Who decides what group you're in, what assets you have access to, and when these files should be available. So having that definition really kind of, simplifying that definition for the users makes it really easy to understand the benefits of what the system is going to bring to them. But it's not really, saying it's not the vision for the implementation. I had the benefit of working with a Agile project manager coach for about 1.5 years prior to joining here. And one of the things that he impressed upon me was, you want to have a vision statement so that you know what you're doing. It doesn't say, and to know why you're doing it. It doesn't say how you're going to do it, because you can't predict all of that as you move forward. But if you know what you're doing and why, it can really focus your attention on doing what matters first. So to come up with a vision statement, again, I tried to use very simple, accessible language. The reason for this is to promote buy-in, particularly with, not just my team, but particularly with executives. They want to know, what is the return on investment? What is this system going to do for us? So my vision statement is to centralize and manage access to brand and creative assets, marketing and education collateral, and master source files, right? That's the what. What am I going to do? Why am I going to do it? Is to streamline the creation, review, and approval and distribution of marketing, sales, and educational materials and corporate collateral. Very simple statement. But just like the definition, this also carries a lot of weight. And we can parse this into asset management speak, right? So centralizing the assets, you can think of single source of truth. Obviously, if you have multiple copies on multiple drives in multiple iterations, it's hard to know which is the right file. Managing access, again, there's that level of governance and permissions, right? So now we have all of the assets in one place and who can see them and when. Brand and creative assets, these are essential for ensuring brand compliance. And the collateral, the actual work product that we make, accompanied by in-market dates. So that's really that's the scope of what I want to capture in the DAM. And the reason for this, right, that having the source files leads into the streamlining of the review process. It facilitates the review and approval process, and it provides us with the full audit trail, right? So ultimately, the end goal is the distribution of these assets, and we do that through a bespoke sales enablement tool, through websites, and through email. And so all of those, if you think about it from an asset management standpoint, you can think about automations and APIs and how we can improve our process, make it easier. But again, that simple vision statement really guides the what and the why, and it helps you identify gaps in the process. So before the DAM, our process for creating materials, it was a one-way street, right? So it all kicked off with a request from our marketing team to our design team. Hey, make me this, right? I want a flyer produced or a brochure. And the request was a long form paragraph. Depending on who was making the request, you would get different degrees of information about what this file was. So we had a process for initiating the creation of an asset. We have a brand hub that's hosted by our global team, where the design team can access the templates and assets such as logos or photographs, approved photos. And then we have a QMS system or a document management system in place where all of the material changes within our organization are tracked. And this is where we run into a lot of friction because it is a very heavy program that requires very specific forms to be filled out. And it routes the file to record approvals from our brand team, clinical team, regulatory, and legal teams. And this system is cumbersome to our end users, but it is a requirement. It is the way that we track everything that we do, and we ensure accountability. At that point in our production process, the files get distributed, either through the web, email, or through that sales enablement tool. Oftentimes, there are some problems in this system. The project management software that we use to create and review files doesn't really support version control. So you really just have a list of files and you assume that the last one is the correct one. The other thing is it doesn't have permissions on it. So anyone within that system can say, oh, I need a flyer for this particular group, and they could just grab it from the project management software. So we had some, there were some problems in the system, but we had some systems in place already. But again, we were just kind of pushing files out into the wild. And at that point, that was where the responsibility kind of ended. We all know this diagram. If you do a search for the digital asset lifecycle, we've all seen this before, but this is really what we want. We didn't want a one-way street. We wanted a continuous loop so that we could start to improve speed, make sure that we have compliance, and also just ensure brand consistency. So we had to create, manage, and distribute. Whether it was ideal or not, there were systems in place for that. We didn't have a good system in place for retrieving and archiving files. A good case study of this is our sales enablement tool. Our marketing team would upload files to that sales enablement tool, and it's essentially just a hard drive that the sales team in the field can access through an iPad. And over the years, this just kind of built up kind of like plaque. So you would have old materials in the system mixed with new materials. You also had duplicates of files, and it becomes very difficult for our sales team to manage and to find the files that are important to them at the time. So this is where we wanted to go. But where we started, we were missing those two components. And a key component here, you see the big missing chunks, but a key component that's missing here is the tagging. Right? None of these files have any metadata associated with them when they get to that final system. They may have a category associated with them in the sales enablement tool, but there was no standardization for that. So this presented the opportunity for the DAM. By layering that vision statement on top of that diagram, we could see that the opportunity to implement DAM and to start to show benefits immediately was through the distribution and then through the archiving and reuse of assets. Those were the gaps in our process. So the first thing that we had to do, though, was get some data. For the files that came before, we had limited data in our QMS, just who the content owner was, what the region is, what the language is. But we didn't have a lot of the who, what, why, and where, and when. And this is how I, again, like to simplify the concept of metadata to end users. It's just like we need some information about this file. So we built a taxonomy that answered these questions. So for example, the who is this for a dentist, an orthodontist, or for the end customer? What type of material is it? Is it a brochure? Is it a flyer? Is it an instructional video? Is it external facing or internal facing? All of these tags have associated with it level of permission, and also streamline and inform that heavy review process that comes at the end of the creation process. So all of this metadata maps into and augments the metadata that we need for our QMS. The other side benefit of this is we took this taxonomy and made pick lists for our standard request forms. So we standardized the requests. So no longer does the marketing team have to write a lengthy paragraph about what they want, or just give us a sentence that says, I need a flyer for dentists. Now they have a pick list with these different terms in it to say, I need this flyer for this group on this date within this region in this language. And it makes the ordering process for the marketing team easier. It makes the communications clearer for our designers, and it organizes the files in the DAM and also feeds into our QMS. So in that way, this really points to the fact that this is not the DAM, this is not the platform itself, this is putting a practice in place and socializing a practice. So this refers back to that definition of DAM is a practice, it's not a platform. You're not buying a program that's going to do anything for you. You are getting a tool that enables, you're getting an enabling technology, but really it comes down to a shared practice between all of the people who are part of the process of producing the material. So with that in place, we started to import files, import collateral into the DAM as it is approved in our QMS. So once it's approved in the QMS, it gets released in the DAM. And this is where our marketing team saw the initial opportunity, the initial benefit, right? Instead of having to download the file from the project management system, not knowing if they had the right file or not, they could go to the DAM and just send the link to the next person in the chain. So rather than download the file and then send it to somebody in the email team or upload it into the sales enablement tool, we just pass a link along. And that link goes to that one file, that single source of truth. And so right there, the marketing team starts to see some efficiencies, right? They also start to feel better about what they're doing because they know that they're in compliance. They know that this file has been reviewed by the necessary approvers. I do want to mention that our sales enablement tool, that kind of hard drive that we had, we took all of the files that had been uploaded into that system and brought them into the DAM, into a kind of a private partition where we had our marketing team auditors go through it and say, oh, we don't want this file in circulation anymore, take this out. We also used some embedded metadata in those files, like the creation date, to say, okay, anything 3 years old or older, let's take that out of the system. Let's archive that file. We also use the content search that is available within the DAM to search for keywords to identify the files and cross-reference to our QMS to make sure that we had the right version of the file in circulation and to reduce duplicates. So in this process of auditing past work, we reduced the content in our sales enablement tool by 50%, focusing our communications. We updated 20% of the content that was in there to the correct version. And now moving forward, instead of uploading files into the sales enablement tool, we are linking files from the DAM. So now we're starting to see that distribution component come into play. We're streamlining the distribution of the files. So now the next steps, we've kind of closed that circle. Our next steps, we're going to go back to square one. We're going to look at the creative assets that we have in our brand hub that's hosted by our global team and bring those into the DAM. This will get rid of redundant systems. It will also help the design team because, any designer at any given moment probably has 4 or 5 different applications open at once and juggling between those applications. If we can reduce that, that makes it easier for them. And of course, we all know the benefits of linking from a DAM so that you get updates in your design files as the files are updated by the global brand team. When I first started here, we had a major change to all of our logos. And so all of our materials, as we are updating them, get a new logo treatment. The other next step, and this is a real big opportunity that I want to tackle, and unfortunately, I want to leave some time for questions, but the review and approval process. A lot of DAMs now have some kind of task management associated with them, as does ours. And we will be exploring starting in Q2. I've already, built some test platforms and kind of piloted this on a limited scale, but we're going to be taking that creation process out of project management. Project management platform does not support version control. We do have version control in the DAM task management. We do have permissions within that system. We can prevent users from mistakenly grabbing an unapproved file just by limiting access to download the file while it's unapproved. We can have time-stamped approvals to create a complete audit trail and link that to the final asset. And then ultimately, I want to integrate this with our QMS to make it a seamless process in one platform that will greatly reduce the time it takes to get marketing materials into this public space. Because as I'm sure other speakers have mentioned, the big challenge that we have is just making sure that we have recorded the proper reviews before releasing anything to the public, because the last thing we want to do is put out incorrect information. We want to help people, not harm people. And of course, ultimately, one of the other functions of the DAM that we're going to be looking at is using it to support our web hosting. This will also reduce the time spent, downloading the file from whatever approval platform we have and then uploading it into a content management system. It will also make sure that the files that we have on the web are up to date, and it will, probably benefit our page load time. So those are the opportunities that we have. But the key takeaway that I want to emphasize is, DAM is a big change for any organization. The medical device industry has a lot of regulations piled on top of, what is already a kind of a complicated system, right? So just producing marketing collateral is something that every DAM user who is in marketing or just producing any kind of collateral, that is a challenge in and of itself that requires change throughout an organization. Layered on top of that is the great lead time for approvals. So any way that we can streamline that and improve accountability, that is a benefit to the organization. The way to explain that benefit is to use simple, accessible language that everyone can kind of get behind, because nobody would say, oh, you know what, we want a slow, laborious process that is porous and has, we want to produce inaccurate information. No, of course not. If you can explain the benefit of the system simply, it becomes self-evident, and then that encourages that change, and that gets that buy-in from all of the users. So thank you. I've tried to leave time for questions.
Michael, thanks so much. One question we have came in is, and the person who sent it apologized if they missed something. Is there a connection between the DAM system and the model releases that likely accompany some of your workflows?
That is a good question. That is something that we'll be tackling as we bring in assets from our brand hub. Mm-hmm. So with most systems, with most DAMs, of course, you have versions or associated files. So if there are model releases, we can attach those to the actual photograph. On mm-hmm. top of that, if we know that there is a term associated with that model release, so that we have a 3-year rights to this image, we can set an expiration date on that image. Mm-hmm. And so that when that image is expired, depending on your level of access, you may be able to view it in the DAM, but not download it. Mm-hmm. Or it may just not appear to you if you are, depending on what user group you're in. So we don't want our marketing team, for example, to see an old photograph and say, I want to use that photograph. But we do want our designers to say, oh, you know what, we really need to use this photograph again. We should probably re-up the license. But that right now is handled by our global team. So mm-hmm. it's not handled at the regional level. Mm-hmm. The DAM itself does have those capabilities, yes.
Excellent. We've seen some interesting use cases on the second example that you stated, where the marketing team that's looking ahead is able to see statistical information about where that asset traveled. And even though the right to use it is expired, and to be able to get some ranked reports on, oh, these performed really well, these performed not so well. And it's so nice to see DAM begin to be embedded with data along with the binary asset and the metadata itself.
That's
Really.
true. One of the systems that we're looking at this year, the benefit of being a tech company and being mostly digital, not print, is that, you know, we are serving up these assets from the DAM, and the DAM is actually recording views on that, so we can see what files the sales team is finding most effective to communicate to our customers. And so we can say, okay, well, this is probably working for us. This is new territory for us. We haven't yet started to really leverage this information, but it is a layer that we want to explore.
I think that's one of the very exciting boundary areas within digital asset management, is then giving professionals such as you the opportunity to meet with sales executives and say, hey, new tool here on the horizon. We're able to help show performance, and if this can help your sales teams with their effectiveness and being able to know what's being received well, in addition to the marketing team who likes to know, well, that seemed to be impactful. Glad we spent money on that. And I like that gathering of insights across different horizons in digital asset management.
Yeah, I think that you see that a lot with, or I've certainly seen that a lot at Henry Stewart, how DAMs really are that connective tissue within an organization that's bringing together these groups, breaking down those silos, to use the business speak, and just, more business speak, surfacing that information so that all of the different groups can use it. But it does really facilitate communication, just having this visibility, you know.
Well, here's some brand speak. I'd like to align our collective thoughts to you and appreciate the information that you shared in getting ready for the presentation, what you've done in your career and helping this company to achieve and affirm what it can use with digital asset management. Is it too tacky to say it brings a smile to my face? I hope not. So,
I know. I think you
hope not.
Trademark after that.
Thank you for your time today. And for the conference, we will reconvene at 1:20 for our next session. But in the meantime, now there's time to grab a cup of coffee, join the Birds of a Feather Lounge discussions, and take a seat at the virtual table in the lounge tab to chat with fellow attendees. Seating tables are first come, first served. And of course, the exhibitions are open to see how sponsors can help you with your DAM. At 1:20 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have our next session. What do DAM content users really need from their DAM? How to increase user adoption and improve users' experience. Michael, on behalf of Henry Stewart, thanks so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take good care. This concludes this session.
Thank you very much.
You bet.